Hey, it's Congressman Jamie Raskin back with Local Heroes. We have a very special guest for you this week because it's National Nurses Week. And happy National Nurses Week to everybody, especially to all of our great nurses out there on the front lines of this struggle. And we had somebody who's an emergency nurse, but she's on emergency call. So I've got another great nurse who's a real local hero, who exemplifies all of those nurses who are taking care of everything else going on while the emergency rooms are operating too. So joining me today and our local hero for the week of, I think this is May 14th, is Donna Damico. And Donna became a nurse 34 years ago, and she's had just a dazzling, amazing career as a nurse, and she's going to tell you about everything that she's been doing, and she's continued to work through this period to deal with a lot of people's needs, and she herself is a mom and a grandmom, and we are so grateful to her. So Donna Damico, first of all, congratulations on being our local hero this week.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
And happy Nurses Week to you. So look, first, you're both an oncology nurse, and you've also been a mental health nurse, a psychiatrist.
Well, I'm a mental health nurse in an oncology practice.
In an oncology practice, okay.
Right.
First of all, tell us how the pandemic has affected your work and what you've been going through. I know your son, Charlie, was upset that you were still going out and going to people's homes and doing home care visits, and he thought that that was risky. Tell us about that whole thing and what you've been doing.
Yeah, so I just kept seeing patients. I just kept seeing them as things were starting. And I realized immediately that I couldn't touch anybody, which was odd. You know, sometimes you hug people, you hug patients. And so I was feeling the change immediately, but I kept thinking, I'll keep the distance, I'll be okay. And then as the weeks went on, I started realizing when I had a 94-year-old not come out of her bedroom and yell from her bedroom, I don't want you to come anymore. I don't want to see anybody. Just go away. Then I started thinking, okay, maybe my son has a point. You know, I mean, the patient was refusing. I was starting to feel scared. I realized by CDC guidelines, I was elderly, even though I don't really feel elderly. So I am in a high risk group because I'm almost 70. And so I evolved away from home care.
And you've been advocating telemedicine in any event for all of these patients.
Yes, and talk to my bosses in my home care agency, and the answer is no, no, more no. And you know, as you've helped me recognize, this is a reimbursement issue. At the other end of my life, I am a therapist in an oncology office, and they right away went to telemed and helped me get set up at home. And I exited the office with all of my files and things and a new computer and set up at my kitchen counter. So I now have been doing telemed for that job for over a month. They are being reimbursed. I actually talked to our office manager this morning because I wanted to know, and she said, absolutely, they're being reimbursed even for phone. And the head of NIMH on PBS last week said, phone is better than nothing. Phone is better than nothing.
And this is why we've been fighting in Congress to expand telemedicine, because a lot of direct face-to-face visits are unnecessary and therefore just spread the risk unnecessarily. But also, like you're saying, Donna, a lot of people are just foregoing visits entirely, and that's not safe.
They're afraid. They're afraid.
Yeah, and then that's not good. So you've described to me that this role of telemedicine is going to become more important as we face a mental health crisis in the wake of the pandemic. Tell us what's going on out there.
So I really believe, and I'm hearing it from the patients I'm talking to, they're not, the cancer patients I have, the hematology patients, they're really not talking about their cancer. They are, and some are in remission, to be fair, but they are much more affected by the isolation now. The isolation is just devastating. It's devastating, and it shows no sign of when it's going to be better. I also have spent a lot more time on telemedicine. I say to my patients, all right, I'm taking off my nurse therapist hat and I'm putting on my public health hat. No, you can't do XYZ. You know, I mean, people have such a range of ideas of what's safe. Oh, my daughter-in-law stops by 3 times a day. No, she can't, you know. And then they'll say, but she's my family, you know, and said, so I have to do a lot of education right now that I wasn't prepared for about what's actually safe. And I'm talking to people who are immunosuppressed. So no, you can't see your daughter-in-law, you know, you can't. So I have a lot of, you know, I have a lot of sessions like that.
Tell us what you think people should know about nurses and the nursing profession on National Nurses Week. I mean, how we can actually demonstrate real respect and solidarity with the nurses.
That's such a thoughtful question. I think I've always felt, my whole career, nothing but respect from patients and patients' families. And I have maybe 3 times in 3 decades ever had like something bad happen between a patient and myself or a family member. And usually it's because somebody is just so stressed. But generally, 99% of the time, patients show us nothing but respect and affection and gratitude. I will tell you, at the opposite end, the people I've worked for my entire career, I have never, ever felt respected, cared for, taken care of by the organizations I've worked for. Not the oncology practice I work for, that's separate, but all of the big facilities I've worked for throughout my career, I cannot say that I ever felt that they got it. And I feel that now that we've moved into the corporatization of healthcare, that is the worst thing that could have ever happened to healthcare. So what I want people to do is rail against that, to say every day, no, healthcare is a right. People should be able to be treated. We should have Medicare for all. That's what I want people to be, you know, yes, you treat us well, thank you, but now go out there and become an activist for healthcare. Tell your congressman, tell people that you believe that healthcare is a right, because the corporatization of healthcare will not do any of us any good. And this pandemic has, you know, just blown that wide open.
Well, Donna, that's a beautiful, powerful, stirring statement for National Nurses Week. We do feel nothing but affection and gratitude and respect for you and your fellow nurses who are getting America through this crisis. And we have got to make sure that the policy commitments that correspond to that affection are actually put into law. And so we got to fight for healthcare for everybody, and we have got to stop subordinating the needs of the people to particular special interest rip-offs and deals that are cut in Washington. So I'm fighting for the nurses, for the doctors, for the healthcare system, and for all the people. Thank you for being with us. You are this week's local hero, Donna Damico, and you represent a great profession. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.